Hi, I'm David Moore from Clearing the Vision Photography, and today I'm going to be reviewing this camera, the Olympus OM-D E-M5, currently the top of the range Micro Four Thirds camera that Olympus releases. And overall, I'm very impressed. So first let me give you a little bit of background about who I am and what I was looking for. So I'm a working photographer. I shoot portraits, do some family work, I do editorial work, and some commercial photography. My main camera is a 5D Mark II by Canon, and I was looking for a second camera that would be a walk-around camera, something that I could have with me all the time that would produce good images, and also something that I could use on professional shoots as well. So that's in some ways a difficult set of challenges to meet, something that was small but also good quality with interchangeable lenses. So this is what I came up with, having tried some other cameras, which we'll talk about later. But overall, I'm very happy with it, and here's why. It's small, as you can see. This is the 45mm 1.8, which is an equivalent to 90mm on a 35mm camera. And so it doesn't feel like it's a big burden to stick in a bag somewhere. And also I have the 20mm f1.7 from Panasonic, which is a little pancake lens, which really makes it even smaller, and you can just drop it in a bag and not worry about it. But small is okay, but only if it produces good images. So what I really like about this, in terms of the quality of capturing images, are a few things. Firstly, the autofocus is fast. They say it's the fastest. I'm not sure how they judge that, but it definitely is very fast and accurate. The face recognition system that it has is valuable, genuinely works well, and can help a lot, especially if you're using narrow depth of field, to make sure you get the faces in focus. It also has a very good in-camera stabilization system, where basically the sensor adjusts to movement rather than having stabilization in the lenses like Canon and Nikon do. So shooting in low light conditions, when you're out there in the evening or it's getting dark, then it works really well to make sure that you get sharp images. Obviously, so long as the subjects aren't moving too much, because that would limit the, you'd still get motion blur from them. The screen here, as you can see on the back, it pulls out so that you can look down and take your shot, good for shooting from the hip. It also pivots, and so it tilts like that, so you can look up and take pictures looking at it like that. It also, the screen is touch sensitive, so if you're not composing using the electronic viewfinder, which is fast and doesn't give me any problems at all, if you're using the screen for composition, there's two different settings. One, you can point to focus, or you can point to focus and shoot at the same time, and that works very well, I found. So it has lots of features that work well to make it simple to use, and it feels like it gets out of your way when you're taking pictures. It supports a good range of lenses. Panasonic and Olympus and Sigma and some other third-party manufacturers are making lenses for the Micro Four Thirds, and it's been around for a while, so there's a good range of lenses from quite inexpensive ones to some expensive kind of pro-grade lenses. And it works, it's good in low light. I had an earlier Micro Four Thirds camera, an Olympus EPL2, and the low light capabilities weren't that great. This is much better. I've become comfortable using it up to ISO 3200 without any bother at all. And allied with that, it has a very good auto ISO feature where you can choose the maximum ISO you want. You can also choose the minimum shutter speed you want, so you can have a combination which works well to basically mean that you can just, I use it in aperture priority with the auto ISO feature, so I don't have to worry about moving from dark conditions to light conditions. The camera can by and large take care of a lot of that, which is genuinely useful for somebody like me who tends to forget, and I'll leave it on the wrong ISO when I go into different light conditions. So if that's a pretty good list of pros, the good parts about it, what are the problems of the camera? Well, one of the key things really is that it has a Micro Four Thirds sensor, which means the sensor is smaller compared to either the APS-C sensors or in other words, the full frame sensors. that mimic the size of a 35mm piece of film. And while what's great about this camera is that it doesn't seem to affect the image quality to a large degree, or even the low light performance, which has been a problem with earlier Micro Four Thirds cameras. There's no getting away from the physics that means that it's harder to get a narrow depth of field with a smaller sensor. Basically, this lens, for example, the 45mm 1.8, behaves as if it were a 90mm 3.6 on a full frame camera. So especially at wide angles, wide fields of view, the depth of field is quite wide. So if you're a portrait shooter that loves to isolate the subject from the background, get a nice blurred bokeh, that's harder to do with this camera. It's not impossible. There's a 75mm lens which works really well, and because of its extra length gives you a narrower depth of field, but obviously that changes the way you can use the camera. So especially at wide fields of view, you won't get a narrow depth of field, as narrow a depth of field as you would certainly with a full frame camera. So if you're a landscape shooter, or you tend to shoot with a broad depth of field, that won't be an issue to you. For me, especially with portrait work, it is something that I'm aware of, and so certainly at wider angles I wouldn't use this for portrait work if I really wanted a narrow depth of field. One of the other features is that the continuous focus, so tracking moving subjects, isn't that great on this camera. Certainly not as good as the phase detection or autofocus that you get on some of the larger SLRs. One other feature that might be an issue is that there isn't either a headphone jack or, more importantly, a mic-in jack by default on this, which is a shame because, especially with the in-camera stabilization, it shoots video really well, but you need an adapter to be able to plug in an external mic, and if you're looking for a headphone jack, you're just out of luck. So you can shoot video well with it, especially if you use external recording devices or get the adapter that allows you to plug in an external mic. Ultimately, when it comes to like absolute image quality, I think in good light, and certainly printing up to 8x10s, probably larger even, this camera won't let you down. In printing at those sizes or used on the web at higher ISOs, it would still perform very well. So I think in most conditions, you won't notice the difference between the image quality in this camera and certainly consumer digital SLRs. I think the DxO ratings give this a similar sensor quality rating to the Canon 7D, which is kind of amazing when you consider that that's not a very old camera and that this is a Micro Four Thirds sensor. But if absolute image quality is the be-all and end-all and everything, then if you're a pixel peeper, this might not work for you. But for me, and for all practical purposes, and even for professional use, I'm very happy with it. Some people find the buttons quite small. Like this is the playback button here. They're quite small. The directional arrows here. That can be an issue. My hands aren't that big, so I don't find it a problem. And obviously, it's a smaller camera, and that's one of the benefits that you'll be looking for. But the layout does work well in having the two dials up here, so you can set them to do different things. But I normally set one for aperture if I'm in aperture priority mode, and this one for exposure compensation. And that really mirrors the kind of behavior of a digital SLR. So you're not hunting through menus to be able to change settings, which is great. But I know some people have found that the other button's quite small, and the on-off button is in a similar position to, say, like the Canon 5D Mark II, but if you're not used to it, it is a little bit peculiar. So overall, I really like it very much. And one extra benefit for it is that it can accept a battery grip, a kind of two-part battery grip, which I'll do another review of in a little while. But that can make it a little bit easier to hold. For casual work, I find the way it is set up now not a problem. But if I was shooting professionally, or if I was going to be shooting with it for a long time at an event, say, the extra grip would help as far as stability, and the optional extra battery would be useful too. I think because there's an electronic viewfinder, and the image stabilization is in the camera. I think that you can get about 300 images out of a battery, which is a lot fewer than you would get with a regular digital SLR. So the grip as an extra, I think, is very valuable if you're going to be using it a lot. So I'm really happy with it. I think you might have seen some earlier posts where I was talking about the Fuji X Pro 1, which I had for a while, which again I was looking as a sort of support camera for my main SLR rig and as a walk around, and that has brilliant image quality, and there's a lot of things I liked about it, but to me the autofocus was a little slow and the overall feel of it wasn't as responsive as this. This feels like a digital SLR in a smaller package with some extra features like the face recognition and the touch screen to focus and shoot, which my 5D Mark II doesn't have. So I'm very happy with it. It's definitely well worth a look. It is not that cheap for Micro Four Thirds, but I think as a secondary camera for working professional, as I am, I think this works well. But as a single camera kind of system for a keen amateur, especially if you don't need a very narrow depth of field for with a wide work that you're doing, I think it would work very well as a first camera. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comments and I'll try and help you out. And so thanks for watching.